welcome to the May the 16th, 1995 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie. And we are bringing you our history tape number 249. And we're very privileged today. We have a very special couple with us today. The young lady has been a long-time Grand Prairie resident, moved away, and has come back to Grand Prairie to reestablish a home, and we're just delighted very much to welcome Lou and Marguerite Shepler Malcolm. Welcome. I'm glad to have both of you all with us today. It's just wonderful.
Thank you.
And Marguerite, since you are the longtime Grand Prairian, and I know that Lou would bow to you and let you be first today, would you look out into your camera and tell us a little bit about Marguerite's heritage, your genealogy, anything you would like to put on this tape? And as we go along, I know that you brought some photographs of those people that were very important in your life and very important to the history of early Grand Prairie, and we want to show and tell a little as we go along.
Well, I'll start with my grandparents.
All right.
Agnes and Alphonse Shepler.
Okay.
He came from Alsace-Lorraine, France.
Yes.
And my grandmother came from Quebec, Canada. Mm-hmm. They came over, and I don't know how they met. I guess I heard the story, but I don't remember. Anyway, they married and moved to Grand Prairie. They lived here a few years, and they had built him a home down on the Trinity River. That's where he had bought a section of land there. And so they lived a little house there close to the Trinity. And the malaria got so bad that they decided they'd have to leave.
Mm-hmm. And was their surname Shepler?
Shepler.
Shepler.
Mm-hmm. And they purchased it in about 1864. That's going way back.
That is way back, isn't it?
Anyway, they lived there, well, until he passed away. But anyway, a few years, I don't know how long they had been there, but not very long. I mentioned the malaria. So they decided it was too bad, so they were going to go back to the old country, as they called it.
Oh, my.
So on the way there, in Kankakee, Illinois, my grandmother had my daddy. She was pregnant at the time. Yeah. So they stopped in Kankakee. So after she got where she could travel, then they went on and to Alsace, and they stayed there until my daddy went to first and second grades, I think, in school there.
Yes.
He used to tell me stories about the thing. Anyway, my grandfather died in 1925. My grandmother died in 1950.
And while we're there, let's show a picture of your late grandmother. Would you like to hold this right here? And I know that our camera person can clue in on that and maybe get a close-up of your grandmother. And what was her given and maiden name?
Agnes Fauché. Agnes was her given name, and Fauché was her maiden name, and then, of course, Shepler.
And then, of course, Shepler. That is very good. Thank you.
She was a sweet old lady. She really was.
Yes. How many children did they have?
They had three. Uh-huh. They had Dina, Mrs. Dina Liggett.
All right.
And then my father was born. But they had one, I think, in between, but the little boy, it was a little boy, but it died.
All right.
I don't know too much. I don't know anything about that one. But anyway.
And your dad's full name?
Is Ernest T. Shepler.
Ernest T. Shepler.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we have him in Canada now. What brought them back to Grand Prairie, Texas?
Well, after they left, they went back to France. After they came back from France, then he had already purchased his land here, you see, before they went to go back to Europe. And they decided, well, they had a section of land just north of town, and it is now it's where the art museum, the wax museum.
Yes.
A couple of motels, and the turnpike goes right through it.
Right.
And anyway, that was a property there beginning.
What did he do for a living?
He farmed and raised cattle.
All right.
That's right. And he raised chickens and birds and things, and it comes to mind that he used to take them a lot of times, the live birds, this sounds real old, pigeons, as they call it, or squabs. Yes. And he had them in little pans, little boxes or something with holes in. He'd walk up from the house there, come up, catch the old interurban,
Yes.
and go over to Dallas to the Adolphus and Baker hotels.
Oh, yes. That was a
And-
market for those.
And he took those live birds over there, and that's where they killed them, and served them,
Yes.
So that's, and I remember too, he had a little two-wheel cart. And as I was a little kid growing up, I would ride uptown with him quite often. And he'd come up, and on Main Street, there didn't used to be, it wasn't paved like it is now.
Yes, it was a gravel.
But it just had a gravel road. And then in between where the buildings were, there was a ring where you'd hitch your horse to.
Yes.
He used to do that and then take his butter and eggs and whatever produce he had to sell.
And your dad, how did he meet your mother? And I'd like to know your dad's full name and your mother's full maiden name.
Well, now you've asked me a question. I really don't know how they met.
All
But I
right.
know they married in 1914.
All right.
And they lived where I was born in 1915.
All right.
And they lived in this house there.
All right, let's turn that around and look at this and tell us where the house was located at the present time.
Well, the house was located right in the middle of Tarrant Road, there where Tarrant goes and Stadium Drive.
I see.
But my dad tore the house down because several years back, the county wanted to straighten out Tarrant Road.
I see.
So my dad did some swapping, and so that's where the house.
And you were born in this house?
Up here on the second floor.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, now give us your mother's full name, including the
Her
maiden
name is Corey Arimenta Clark.
All right. And I think we have a picture of your mom and dad we need to show and
That was
tell at
taken
this
in
time.
later years.
All right.
This was my dad not too long before he passed away, and he passed away in 1952.
All right, and give us your mother's maiden name one more time.
Corey Arimenta Clark.
Arimenta. That is an exciting name, isn't
They
it?
always called her Ari
Yes.
for short, but Corey Arimenta Clark.
All right. And what did your dad do for a living in Grand Prairie?
Well, he was a cattleman.
All right.
He raised cattle. He raised produce for the cows.
Yes.
And
How many children did
my mother and dad only had two. My brother, Paul Calvin Shuffler,
All
and
right.
myself.
All right.
And he is married, and he has, they're living in Mount Alba, Texas now.
All right. And name his wife and the three children.
His wife's name is Louise. Her maiden name was Harris.
All right.
And they have three children, a son, Calvin Ernest. Okay, stop and think.
Yes.
And Paula Gale. And Susan Marguerite. I have a namesake.
You have a namesake.
And they have two great-grandchildren.
All right.
Their oldest granddaughter, Susan's daughter, has two little children, a girl and a boy.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. And Marguerite, growing up in Grand Prairie, Texas, did you go to Grand Prairie schools?
Oh, definitely.
What was the year you graduated from Grand Prairie High School? And we tell all we want to on this.
1933, I graduated.
1933.
I was 17 years old when I graduated from high school. It took me 11 years to go to school. I missed
Yes.
the first year.
Yes.
I was so smart.
Yes.
My mother taught me at home the first year because my birthday came back then where you had to be a certain age.
Yes,
before
had to
you
be
go
7,
through.
didn't you?
So that she taught me, and Mrs. Yeager was my teacher, or was a teacher. But anyway, Mother would come up and get books from Mrs. Yeager, and she taught me. And so when I started school, I started in. And I will never forget my first teacher's name. Her name was Sally T. Harris.
Sally T. Harris. Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, now, and graduating from Grand Prairie High School, what happened to Marguerite then?
Well, I went to college, junior college, down at Keene, Texas.
All right.
And that's where I got a good workout.
Yeah.
Because back then, kids kind of did some of their work trying to get their finances and everything going to school. I guess they do now, but they really did then. I worked in the print press. I did some library work. And they had a pecan sheltery, and I hulled up pecans, for they sold them.
Yeah.
And I guess that's about it. I took business administration. That was my
Major.
What I took in school.
We're going to get back with you in a few minutes, Marguerite. We're going to talk a little bit about especially the Seventh-day Adventist Church site that's located on Tarrant Road and how important that is to your heritage and to your families. And let's get to Lou Malcolm.
Yes.
All right. Give us your genealogy. Look out into your camera and bring us up to date.
Well, we can start. My great-grandparents came to this country through Canada and migrated down to West Liberty, Texas, many, many years ago. My grandfather, with parts of his family, moved to the Oklahoma frontier before it was a state.
Oh.
He was a marshal in Henrietta, Oklahoma. That's the hometown of our very famous quarterback right now.
Yes.
But he was a marshal there, and he also was in a business. He also owned the local saloon.
Good.
He was shot and killed in a gun battle in 1914, I believe. They were trying to rob his saloon. And I even have a newspaper clipping. Then my family, like some of the other Okies at that time, moved. Only this group of Okies went to Kentucky.
All right.
Rather than California. My father worked in the shipbuilding business, built LSTs. And I cruised along in various schools, graduated from the Louisville Male High School in 1943.
All right.
This was an ROTC unit. I'd had 3 years of the Army service, and the war was on, so everyone in the audience knows what happened to me.
Yes.
Only I didn't go in there. I went in the Merchant Marine. And was there 4 years, came out. My family then lived in California. And I came back to Iowa and became a Chamber of Commerce manager.
All right.
Which I did for the balance of 35 years before I retired.
Chamber of Commerce. Now, we need to establish your father's full name and your mother's full and maiden name. Would you do that for the record?
Dad is Ira Martin Malcolm.
Right.
He was born 1989. And mother was Anna Mae Fox. And she was born in Arma, Kansas, about 1905.
1905. All right. Now, do you have any siblings?
I have one brother who is now living in Phoenix. I'm the younger brother. He's the older fellow.
Give him a name.
Martin A. Malcolm, the A for Alexander, of course.
Yes.
And my sister, who passed away at 26 a few years ago.
Yes.
That's our family.
That is your family. All
I
right.
have 2 sons.
All right, and 2 sons. Name them.
Okay, well, we have Stephen and his wife, Queenie. Her name is Helen, but is known all of her life as Queenie. They live in Colorado at the present time and have 3 children, one of which is now a chef in Vermont. The other one is graduating this year from the school in Ouray, Colorado.
All right.
And he'll be going to Chef's College in Seattle. And then my little granddaughter is only 16, so she'll be staying with Mom and Dad a few years.
All right, and you would give us that name.
Oh, how could I ever forget it? The story goes, when we were in the cattle business down in East Texas, I told her one day, I said, Mandy, her name is Mandy Marlene. I said, we'll name one of the calves for you. She said, well, Grandpa, I've got 2 names.
So she
we
got
had
2
a calf was born with Mandy, and one
was Marlene.
One was Marlene.
Yes, all right. And in your trek around the United States and everything, what brought you together with this beautiful lady? Where did you meet Marguerite?
Well, I was a Chamber of Commerce executive in Kerrville, Texas, and got to be was elected as district governor for the Beautified Texas Council, where incidentally you and I met. You were active in that group.
Yes.
And she was a district governor from around the Palestine area.
Yes.
And one night at the special dinner, they honored the district governors. And Rogers was her married name, and Malcolm was my name, and the M's and the R's are pretty close now.
Yes, yes.
That's how we met.
That is wonderful, which is now Keep Texas Beautiful.
Yeah.
If they knew that they brought together a beautiful relationship.
We met in 82 and married in 84.
All right, and that's the 1900s, of course.
Yes.
All right, that is wonderful. And then after you married Marguerite, where did you go from there? Where were you living?
Well, I was living on a ranch that I had bought back in 1970.
Yes.
Of course, I lived at home there and everything.
Yeah.
And I lived after my first husband died, David
Yes.
W. Rogers.
Yes.
I was a widow, and I was running the ranch by myself and everything else, mowing lawns and everything else. So when I met Lou, well, after about 2 years, well, things started getting a little better each time. So
Yes.
here we are. And then when we married...
Well, it's 309 miles from Palestine to
Far
Prairie.
romance.
Oh,
That's
my.
a long way to date.
That is a long way to date,
He kept the
isn't it?
telephone pretty busy.
Yes. All right. And then, Lou, what brought you back to Grand Prairie, Texas? Did Marguerite, or did you do this of your own free will?
Well, yes, I was planning to retire, and it just seemed to me that it was better to do it. You can't move the ranch.
Yes.
But at that time, I didn't have a lot of property, and it was more convenient for me to move back to Palestine than it was for her.
Yes, yes, yes.
So from Palestine then, we moved up here.
From Palestine to Grand Prairie, Texas. All right. And you live in our illustrious city, but you moved to the far south compared to the beautiful place that you had, all of this farm that you had along I-30.
Well, it's all changed.
It's all changed very much, isn't it? All right. And
See,
moving
Interstate 30 goes right up almost to meet it, up in between, right in the middle.
right in the middle of your farm, a ranch. All right. Now tell us about the church on Tarrant Road.
Well, my mother and brother donated the property where the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is built. I can't remember, I should have, just exactly the year that it was built, but my family and the Liggett family all had, and the Stubbs family, incidentally, we were all more or less interrelated some way or
Yes.
other, all had a big, big hand. Of course, other people did too, but I mean, they had a big hand in building the church.
And that's the Seventh-day Adventist
Seventh-day.
Church there on Tarrant Road.
Tarrant Road, yes.
Yes.
And now I've noticed they have enlarged it the last few years.
They really have, haven't they?
It's a nice church.
Before we leave that, I'd like for you to show Ara Shepler's picture.
That's a recent picture.
That is a recent picture of her. And when was she deceased?
She deceased in 1988.
1988. Very important in the social circles of Grand Prairie, Texas. A mover and shaker in our community for many, many years. And I just felt that we needed to salute her in a special way because she had a lot of meaning to a lot of we of just a little bit younger generation, you know. And thank you for bringing that photograph of her.
Incidentally, while we were talking about it, she did a lot of needlework. I gave a African, and they auctioned it off at the last Women's Club meeting.
That she had built.
made.
Oh my, that is wonderful. All right, now tell us what you're involved in now, Lou. What are y'all doing for pastime, recreation, and travel, and all the good stuff?
Well, we've tried to slow up some.
I see.
And I've been active in the Shrine and the Masonic Lodge, and also its next-door neighbor, the Methodist Church.
Yes.
At the present time, I'm serving as president of the Sunday school class.
All right, would you name that Sunday school class?
Well, it's the pace setters.
Oh, of course. I should have known. I should have known.
We sometimes laugh and call it the pacemakers, but it's
Yes.
the pace class.
Oh, that is great.
And I'm serving as first vice president of the local Shrine Club at the present time.
Oh, that is great. And both of you all are also members of our very own Grand Prairie Historical Organization, and we move and shake and do good things. Marguerite, tell us a little bit about the organizations that you're a member of and that mean a lot to you. And I know you're a past president of the Seroptimists. Tell us something about your service in the community of Grand Prairie.
Well, I'm, of course, the past president of Seroptimists back in about 1955, I think it was. And then in the Seroptimists, from there I went to a district secretary regional secretary, and then district director
Oh, my.
in the biennium of 1964-66. I'm still a member, of course, of the Seroptimist. I'm also a member of the Art of the Eastern Star, the Historical Society, as mentioned. What else am I a member of?
Well, we tried to cut down on our
Yes.
Yeah. And let's see, I remember something else, but I can't remember.
All right.
Oh, the
And-
Women's Club. Oh,
The Women's Club, of course, the Women's Club.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Grand Prairie has been very meaningful to your family, and would you like to just tell us a little something about your image of Grand Prairie back when you were going to school and what it meant to you when you came back and saw the changes?
Well, it has changed so much since I went to school. Because when I went to school,
What was the population?
about 2,500.
Big town.
Big town, 2,500 when you
I
went
think
to
there were 12 or 13 in my graduating class.
Yes.
And as I said, it's been quite a change. And I went to school all my life and then graduated from the old red brick two-story school. Of course, they've torn it down, but it's now
The administration.
just the
building is there.
administration. That was all that. And can't think right off else what else but in school. But anyway, and during the war, well, I worked at North American for a
Oh,
while.
you did?
Yes. In
Where
fact,
did you work at North America?
I was in the shipping department.
Shipping
I was a clerk, what they called a Class A clerk. They had,
Right.
you know. And I was one of the last ones, another girl and myself, were the last two people, or some of the last two people, that ever left North American after the war was over. Because we had to write up bills of ladings and all that sort of thing to clear out all the stuff that was left. And where they shipped it, I don't know. I heard different tales, but I don't know what happened to it.
Well, I worked for the general foreman of contract termination, who was Eddie Heiler.
Oh, well, you
and
probably-
we were the ones that were disposing of it and sending it to you, to the shipping department, to mail out and do all of the good
I
stuff.
wonder who gave us all that work.
Gave us all of that work to do. All right. Lou, I'd like for you to talk just a little bit about the image of Grand Prairie, and what do you think about it and our Chamber of Commerce and the good stuff we're doing for Grand Prairie today?
Well, I've been down to visit the chamber, and bless their heart, they were anxious to get workers, and I said, I've done my share. I'm going to come down and pat you on the back now.
Yeah.
But I like Grand Prairie. It has, as far as I'm concerned, it's a great future. There are good people in this community, and there are only three things to me that make a community memorable: the people, the ground it's on, and the attitude that they have. And the people and the ground and the buildings can do nothing about it, but the people can. And we've come to this town and have gotten a marvelous welcome. It seems like everywhere we've gone, the people, as far as I'm concerned, people of Grand Prairie are friendly. And they have at least showed that to us. And I've got a real good feeling for Grand Prairie.
All right.
We vote and we express ourselves.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, that's what we need, isn't it?
Sure do.
All right, Marguerite, would you like to name drop some of the old-time families that are still living in Grand Prairie that you knew? I know Fauché Liggett and
He and Martha.
He and Martha are still longtime residents of Grand Prairie.
And there's Rowena and J.C. Swadley, where she's now, her name is Clark.
All right.
How long has Romy been there?
Romy,
Snyder.
Romy Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah.
Romy Stewart.
I knew a lady named Romy Snyder.
I met Romy during the war, and I've known her ever since then. I can't remember some of the ones that I knew when I was
Was Roger and Thelma Dickey, were Roger and Thelma Dickey here?
well, yes, they were here, but
Did they come later?
They came later, see. I can't remember too many of the old families that I know now.
Who lived on the farm next door to you? The Duvals?
The Duvals, they were on down. Jimmy Duval is still living.
Yes.
And his daughter,
Jan Barrett.
she's in the Historical Society,
Yes.
too. And right now, I can't think of anyone else that's of the older families, back when I was a kid, and
following your tenure at North American Aviation, and after the war was over, and after you had shipped out all of these supplies and machinery and et cetera, what happened to Marguerite then?
I went to work as a secretary at Sanger Brothers.
How wonderful.
And I worked there for about 10 years.
Okay.
And I worked myself, well, I went right in and worked for the president. He was, vice president and of the company, and I was his secretary, and they called me an executive secretary. They gave me that position, I don't know why.
Yes.
Because I sure did a lot of typing. But anyway, I enjoyed it very much. And I still have some very fond memories of that.
Did you commute to Dallas?
I used to ride the bus.
Ride the bus?
From Grand Prairie into Dallas daily. And I shall never forget, one day it was cold, it was icy on the ground, and the bus stopped at the curb on the, let's see, it was about where, it was a drugstore at that time. I can't think now just what it would be in there now, but anyway, it doesn't matter. That's where the bus got our tickets. And the bus stopped and it started sliding down toward the curb. It kind of scared us up a little bit, but anyway. That's just one of those things.
Grand Prairie a long time ago, wasn't it?
Oh, talking about back during the war, another friend and I used to ride horseback a lot. We'd leave North American and come home, saddle our horses, and ride horseback till 3 or 4 hours, you know.
Yes, that was fun. Out on your farm.
Sometimes there'd be several of us. We'd ride all the way to Arlington and back.
Well, are you in memory of the racetrack that was at Arlington Downs, or was that before your time? And that was before.
I remember it, but I didn't know anything about it. I was too young then. They wouldn't let me go.
Too young to leave your mother, weren't you?
Yeah, I had to leave at Molly's side.
Yes. And in high school, do you remember your favorite teachers?
Yeah, and Mrs. Unsel. She was my Spanish teacher.
Yes.
She was a little small lady, and she took us all over to, I ate my first Mexican dinner, I think, over on McKinley at an El Phoenix Cafe in Dallas. That's about all I remember about that, but I know she was a real sweet lady.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, Lou, you're going to have to wind up our interview by telling us just a little bit about the Kerrville country. That is so pretty there. How long were you there?
I was there almost 5 years.
Almost 5 years.
And it ended a 35-year chamber career, which I enjoyed Kerrville very much. The town is just amazing. The little things they can do for a small community. As I've always said, the Chamber of Commerce budget in that town was $180,000, and it was only 21,000 people, which was amazing.
A lot of good tourism then, didn't you?
Yeah, and Kerrville had a good attitude, and Kerrville was small until Interstate 10 came along. The big city out that way used to be Fredericksburg,
yes,
where the main highway ran through, but IH-10 was put through, and it came through Kerrville, and Kerrville began to grow. And they've got an airplane manufacturer out there, which most people are unaware of.
Yes.
Mooney Aircraft, plus many others.
Yes. What are y'all going to do the rest of this summer?
Well, we're going to Denver this weekend.
All right, see the grandbabies.
No, they live in...
No, I tell you what, they live out in Western. They moved
They
now.
live in the western part?
Grand
But
Junction.
my
Grand
grandson just got married a couple of months ago, so we can expect things down the road, I'm sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, it's just been so wonderful to have you all with us to show and tell.
Thank you.
And especially to commemorate Marguerite's longtime family that was here in Grand Prairie, early settlers, very important to the history of Grand Prairie. And there are a lot of things here that I know that they would be reminded of if they were still here, and they're glad that you all are spending your time in Grand Prairie now, and so are we. And thank you all for the interview. Y'all were real precious to be with us today. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live